In this video, I will explain the logical fallacy called the appeal to emotion. I'll begin with a general explanation, explain why it is a mistake, and use some examples of people making this sort of mistake. Hopefully, by the end of the video, you will be able to spot and deal with this fallacy. And if not, well, if you don't subscribe to this channel and hit the like button for this video, I just don't know what I'll do. My survival depends on the knowledge that people are watching and liking these videos. So please, just click on the button. Okay, so what is an appeal to emotion? Well, it happens when you use an emotion to justify a conclusion. The conclusion can be the adoption or removal of a belief or the promotion of an action. This is a problem because conclusions such as the adoption of a belief should not be purely emotive. There should be logic to the conclusion. If a belief is irrational and illogical, then it is probably a mistake to adopt this belief. But does this mean that emotion has no part to play? No. Humans are not rational beings, and emotions are part of the human experience. In fact, Aristotle used to believe that both logic and rhetoric were needed to persuade someone. Logic alone was not enough. I think there is some truth to this. Logic alone may not be enough, and so I think an appeal to emotion can be useful, but only if the conclusion is logical. If the logic for the conclusion does not follow, or there is no logic at all, then an appeal to emotion is fallacious. I think the appeal to emotion is quite popular. You see it in all sorts of places. This is partly because there are so many emotions, but also because it can be very persuasive. Let's look at some examples of this fallacy. Appealing to pity occurs when you are encouraged to adopt a conclusion just because you take pity on someone. Consider the following example. When I was a young child, my mum would encourage me to finish my dinner by reminding me of all the starving children in the world. Yes, there are disadvantaged and malnourished children in the world, and yes, I and many others feel pity for them. But is this useful in making someone finish their dinner? There are other arguments, more logical arguments. For example, that eating my dinner will provide me with nourishment and help me to grow, or that minimizing food waste is a good thing. So there was logic to the conclusion, and so the appeal to pity served as extra persuasion. Of course, it can also backfire. I remember a time as a child when I thought, why should starving children elsewhere mean that I should eat my dinner? Is it not better to give them some of my food? I mean, if we are in the situation of having starving children in one place and children with food they don't want in another place, then maybe the solution is to give them the food we don't want. Needless to say, my mum was not impressed by this and moved on to using an appeal to fear, which takes us nicely to the next example. Appealing to fear occurs when you are encouraged to adopt a conclusion because of a certain fear should you not adopt it. This is essentially a threat or extortion. I always think of that quote from the film The Godfather. I made him an offer he could not refuse. Extortion might be persuasive, but it does not help us determine the truth. Consider the following example. If you don't believe in God, you will go to hell, so you should believe in God. This is a bad argument. It provides us with no logical reason for the belief. Instead, it threatens us for not believing. If you want someone to believe something, then you should provide a logical argument for doing so. It is not enough to just threaten them. Consider the following example. You are in court witnessing a trial for a suspect charged with assault, and you hear the following argument. If you don't convict this person, you might be his next victim. This is another bad argument. The suspect is either guilty or not guilty of the crime, but anything that they may or may do in the future can have no bearing on the verdict of this case. Why should it? It makes no sense to consider potential future actions in a case that concerns a crime in the past. The case must be judged on the evidence presented. An appeal to fear, like all emotional appeals, is not necessarily fallacious. Going back to The Godfather, the fear of dying might well motivate you to do whatever the Godfather wants. So if the threat is logical and genuine, it becomes a powerful motivator. The next appeal to emotion is the appeal to pride. Appealing to pride occurs when you are encouraged to adopt a conclusion because doing so will make you proud. It might take the form of flattery or even an appeal to your sense of status. Consider the following example. You're too intelligent to believe that. The argument here is that intelligent people don't believe this proposition, and so neither should you if you want to be considered intelligent. Most people would feel proud if they and others felt they were intelligent. Of course, this is a mistake because your intelligence has nothing to do with the truth value of the proposition. Let's look at another example. Do this and you will be remembered for generations. This argument is encouraging you to do something just because doing so will put you in the history books, and most people would feel proud knowing they will go down in history. But of course, it is still a mistake. Many people are remembered even today for doing bad things. There are many more emotions besides the three I have talked about, and the appeal to emotion can apply to all of these. When you see someone use this fallacy, control your emotions. Don't let them control you. Consider the logic of the argument. Does it make sense? If no logical argument has been presented, ask for one. Well, that concludes the video. Hopefully now you have a better understanding of this fallacy. And if not, well, if you don't subscribe to this channel and hit the like button, then somebody is going to get hurt. Like seriously hurt. So be good and subscribe to the channel.